and what we're looking for today are both creators that are passionate about their individual sport or activity or multiple activities, but also ones that like to share that journey with the consumer. So that like to create content and not just content that's in front of a mirror showcasing their outfit, but we're really looking for more dynamic content, people that are really willing to be raw.
Hey, Courtney, welcome to the show. How are you?
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Today we talk about a lot of things that we kind of covered in the past, but this time I think we're going to really go in detail about, athletes, right? And what is going on when it comes to influencer market, right? There's certain things are going to be very similar, other are going to be, maybe a bit different, right? From what usually the typical content creator, right, they do on a day to day. But before we get started, why don't you tell us a bit, more about yourself? I've used this thing called the map. Basically, it's divided in three main sections. First is the mission. So basically, what do you aim to achieve with your work? The number two is achievements. So anything that you're really proud, notable milestone, either in your career or life or both, if you will to. And also the last one is the purpose. So why do you do what you do?
So our mission at FP Movement is really to connect women. We're primarily female-led team, and we only make clothing for female. Although there are some unisex products that everyone likes to wear, so we can get you a pair of sweatpants if you'd like as well. But we're really connecting females at the intersection of function and fashion. So a lot of activewear brands out there, we really aim to create performance-ready styles for females that also want to feel their best, look their best, and not compromise fashion while working out. And we really celebrate all forms of movement, which is really unique to the FP Movement brand. We're not only celebrating studio, kind of your everyday training workouts, but we really go deep in the run category, hike category, ski category, and racket sports and tennis. So we make products for all activities, but those are the four areas that we're really focusing on. And that has been really exciting and empowering for me and my team to kind of have those swim lanes, if you will. And then we're really able to go deep in those activities, attract talent, both athletes, but also influencers that are really passionate about those activities, partnerships, brands, etc. So that's really our mission.
Fantastic. And what about achievements? Anything that you're proud of?
I joined the brand primarily. I was originally hired in 2019 to oversee Free People. So Free People is the women's lifestyle brands that I'm sure we all know and love. So FP Movement was really a division of Free People at that time, just as Denim is, which is now We the Free, or Endless Summer, which is now the Freest line. And FP Movement was a very small division, and we really took that. My boss and I, who's the CMO, a few other partners internally, really saw an opportunity. And FP Movement, actually ahead of the pandemic, we had plans for its own marketing budget, its own talent in early 2020 to really spin it off on its own brand. And it has really taken off. We had our first store opening in October of 2020. And now in the beginning of 2025, we have 56 standalone FP Movement stores. And it's grown, exponentially since that point. So I'm really just so happy that the consumer partners, everyone in our community is passionate about the brand and is on this ride with us to help us grow it, because as a marketer, that's all you want, right? So I want more budget each year to do exciting activities to be able to grow and grow. So it's definitely been a lot of hard work, but a little bit of luck and fantastic product along the way.
Congratulations, first of all. Love to hear that. And, I also like, again, in addition to the mission, right, that you covered before, is there anything else that you would like to share also on the purpose? So the reason, right, behind what you do on a day to day?
So we're a really big community-driven brand. So you think my 56 stores, well, they just kind of scale the stores really quickly. We really scaled where we have a purposeful community. So here in Los Angeles, we have a run club that we do a minimum of once a month, and we have upwards. We were doing it in 2 locations in Venice, Abbot Kinney, and then in Century City, and we were having upwards of 100, 150 people join us each month. So we're now activating programming in 15 to 16 markets a month with about 5 events and classes. And we have, anywhere from 50 to hundreds of people joining these events. So I love that. I love that we can I have so often heard, I moved to a new city. I was a part of your run club or your mat class in Los Angeles. We actually have a partner at Refinery 29 that just told me recently during the marathon in Miami, and I moved to Miami and I started the run club here, and I've met some of my best friends in the city. So I think that that's really fun too, just like-minded females at a safe space and around a community that are just passionate about moving their body and can meet great friends and a great community through that. So that's really impactful and, special to us.
Well, that's amazing. We're gonna dive in, later during the, today's episode about going from offline to online and vice versa, right? Because I think there are more and more activations happening in the space. So I'd love to hear more about it, what you're doing specifically on that. But let's start, getting into, FB Movement's influencer marketing strategy, right? And one of the things, one of the first steps, right? Even before maybe they create the content, I mean, like after discussing creative concepts and everything, one of the very important things is all the time to find the right fit, right, for the company. And so I would like to understand a bit more. How do you find, right, the right, athletes to collaborate with, right, creators? And also I would like to understand what is the like the typical, right, profile that you're looking for when it comes to collaborations.
Definitely, it's been a journey. So I've been on now at my 6th year at Free People in our Free Movement. So it's been an evolution, right? You always have to learn. So I first want to say that to any kind of marketer and creator. So we're really looking what we've learned over the years and what we're looking for today are both creators that are passionate about their individual sport or activity or multiple activities, but also ones that like to share that journey with the consumer. So that like to create content and not just content that's in front of a mirror showcasing their outfit, but we're really looking for more dynamic content. People that are really willing to be raw with their content, especially in video recordings, and might share, the start of their day. Okay, I wake up at 6 a.m. to train before work, and it's dark and I'm tired, but I do it anyway, and really share those difficult moments, but then also the substantial wins. So that's what we're really looking for from creators, the ones that are just willing to share, willing to shoot content, willing to shoot video content. And then also, I think it's really important that creators actually love the brand and they're actually wearing it in their everyday life aside from when you have sponsor content. So I love nothing more that when I see a creator place an order or I see them request certain items. We have really unique names. We work with our merchandising team and a few people internally that name their products. So we have leggings called You're a Peach. We have a fleece called Hit the Slopes. We have a tank called Happiness Run. So when creators really know the product and know what works in their body because we have such a wide breadth of product. I just love that when people really kind of do their own deep dive on what works for them, their bodies, their training routines, and are willing to share that journey along the way. I think that's really that sweet sauce because just like consumers have, creators have a lot of opportunities and brands they work with, and we really want to find those that are authentic to the brand and passionate about the FP movement mission.
And do you work with like, different type of creators in terms of both size and sometimes maybe sub industries? Do you have any preference there? Are you still testing out things or did you find your sort of like, 80/20, right? Type of creators there you like try to focus or double down when possible and just like trying to understand a bit more again if there is any preference there or there are still brands that every month after years they're still testing, right, the different type of creators, and so I would like to understand, have you find your sort of like formula or is still like testing phase because it's ever changing, right?
So we found now our buckets, right? Who we like to work with are definitely athletes that are performing kind of in their everyday life. So this past campaign that we worked on, we cast Salone Stevens. We're on our 3rd year of our ambassadorship with her. She's a professional tennis player. We cast Riley Arnold, who is on Dancing with the Stars. So she's in their everyday life that they're working towards their sport. So we definitely have those types of creators that show up in our campaign. So that's one kind of tiering bucket that we've categorized. And then in terms of content creators, we actually found a sweet spot with asking some talent to create content for us that maybe necessarily isn't showing up on their channels. It's just for paid social purposes. Just creator pricing has gotten expensive and maybe different creators don't want to flood their feed with just one brand, but we definitely want certain types of content and products to show up on our paid social. So we worked out that other bucket, talent that's just willing to create content for us that will show up on our channels. And then the third bucket, I would say, are converting creators. So creators that are working with us through LTK or ShopMy and that are just converting for us. And that's not every creator. So I don't expect our athletes to be converting for us, even though they might use affiliate links. That's really not the their KPI and their purpose. So if that helps, we definitely have creators that we shoot content. Our creative director and that team shoots the content for them with a professional photographer, art director. We have some content creators that are just sending us a plethora of content that we're kind of mining through, seeing what works best for us. And then other creators that are really, I would say they're really just like well trained in a well-oiled machine to pump out those links and to get them up on their platforms, who convert. And then of course, then they post the content on their channels with those appropriate links.
Is your brand ready to amplify its reach? Well, the Influencer Marketing Factory is here for you. We are a global influencer marketing agency helping brands ignite their growth. From influencer identification to campaign strategy, handling legalities and agreements, to managing shipping and logistics, we got you all covered. We work with hundreds of brands across different verticals, from Fortune 500 companies to direct-to-consumer brands. And we don't just stop there. With detailed ROI analysis, we help brands like yours measure success, transforming impressions into conversions. You can find us at theinfluencermarketingfactory.com or just searching the Influencer Marketing Factory on Google. So when it comes to affiliate creators, right? Yeah, primarily people that really focus on conversions, right? In that case, how does it work? Like, can anyone be part of that? Is there a process, right? Because also in that case, there are brands that are approaching that in a different way. There are a few, right? They say you can apply, and then if selected, there are certain guidelines, right? They have to go through, and we're going to help you, right? Even with resources, we're going to help you understand really how to maximize, right? Conversions, how to make the best video out there. And there are others instead that are be more broader, right, the type of reach, and be like anyone that wants, they can just, there is no application, you can go through just taking the link in your dashboard, post whatever you want, and of course both of them can be with pros and cons. One of the cons sometimes is about brand safety, right? Because if you don't really control the narrative. So what is your approach there? Do you have any preference when it comes to affiliate marketing?
We definitely do, because there are these platforms, right, that are able to synthesize the links and the payments back to us, and also mine through all the data. So we are definitely, our preferred partners are Like to Know It, ShopMy, and ShopStyle. So in terms of influencer platforms, there's a few other small ones that I'm sure Magic Links is one for YouTube that we work with, but kind of the lion's share of where we end up sending our commission payments are really those three. And I would say for creators, the platforms are actually really neat and really interesting. Of course, creators need to get signed up to the platform, but then once they're signed up to the platform, if they start linking to FP Movement directly into our program, there isn't a really big barrier to entry. So those three programs, being ShopSale, ShopMy, and LTK that I mentioned, once you're signed into those programs, and they're very clear about the steps to getting signed up to those programs. I believe you have to have a public account on Instagram and on TikTok, and just linking. And also the way Instagram's evolved, everyone is allowed to create a link in their Instagram story. So that barrier to entry has been lowered, where it wasn't that case a few years ago. So actually, these platforms, I would encourage creators, even those starting out, to look into these platforms, because they actually create the monetizable link for you and handle that tracking. And then on the back end, I mean, some are definitely more. ShopMy, Magic Links, and ShopStyle are more transparent with information, I would say, than LTK, although they are working on their analytics. But if a creator, say that you start linking to FP Movement, then basically what happens there, then we can see on our back end, like, oh, Alessandro converted 50 fleeces for us last week. And then we might reach out to you through the platform for a paid partnership. So we do have been paid partnerships within the platform that we really go through when we select some of our top converting creators, or we'll give a new creator an opportunity, because we're always interested in new customers. So customer acquisition and just growing our overall reach is really important to us as the brand as well. So I actually really think that that's a great way to get on brands' radar, is to by start linking to them organically. And the advice I would have for creators there is to link to the brands directly, as opposed to a wholesaler, a third-party retailer. Of course, we love, of course, our partners, Nordstrom, Dick's Sporting Goods. Of course, encourage people to shop there as well. But for the brand's direct marketing program, we're only seeing the data and analytics on you if you link directly to FP Movement.
Amazing. It makes sense, right? Especially these days that you want to track everything, you want to see, the ROI behind, campaigns. So you can also see, what is amazing of affiliated is that, as you said before, you can see the one that are performing the best, and you potentially can contact them and do something specific, right? And customize and tailored with maybe the top 20, right? So there are like
Yeah.
a lot of opportunities there. So if on the one hand, right, we have affiliate creators that are usually tech savvy, or at least they understand the idea of placing links and tracking things and everything, right? On the other hand, you have athletes that I'd say that in the past years they definitely started understanding much more social media, but many times still they are fantastic, right? I've been athletes, right? So they are great in what they do, sports, and that happen the same also sometimes with musicians and artists, right? But sometimes maybe they might need, right, guidance. Are you seeing that? Are athletes like starting to by themselves to try to improve their skills when it comes to social media, understanding marketing, communicate, storytelling, and everything? So, do you think it's getting a bit more natural because it's part also of their job somehow these days to also do promotions, or are you seeing still a sort of gap between their day-to-day job, right, and then when they have to do promotions, maybe they need still some guidance or help or support when it comes to how to get a message out there?
I think athletes are really, especially the ones that we are working with, are really natural storytellers and are becoming more and more savvy about how to tell that story on the platforms that brands are looking for. And I've seen now, kind of 2025, that if that hasn't been so innate to them or they haven't fit it in their schedule, either their team directly or their agency has really helped them with the tools behind that. So their management group, right? Because the managers and the agents are the ones oftentimes procuring these deals for the athletes.
Mm.
So I actually have found that in the past few years, these agencies now offer services to the athletes, either to help them with their content at the agency level or help their team or their assistant. And then, Alessandro, over the years, we actually have not renewed with certain athletes that haven't been able to produce content for us, because even if you're performing in the field, if you're not able to tell that story for the brand,
Yeah.
then there isn't as much of a benefit. And athlete sponsorships are expensive, and we want to pay the athletes what they're worth. Of course, they're representing, they're wearing our product at the most important and pivotal times in their life, and also relying on the product for performance. So we definitely like to pay the athlete, of course, what they're worth there, but also need that content back, or the tag back. And then you find that you really do want to work with athletes that are interested in both and delivering for you as a brand, and proud to be a part of the brand, but then also focusing on their craft. So I actually think the athletes have had to become more adept brand storytellers over the years, really to remain, I don't want to say relevant, but kind of almost, because unless you're on a sport that's on a team, or an athlete in a sport that is televised, such as tennis. We work with quite a few tennis players, because tennis is an individual sport where you're allowed to wear a brand's uniform, your sponsor's uniform. That's not the case in a team sport, right? You're wearing the team uniform. So tennis is a fantastic partnership opportunity, because both the players need the product, and there's also 100% share of voice for you, televised opportunity with that player, right? So that's been a really nice and fruitful partnership for us. But aside from the sports, like running is a perfect example. Running isn't always televised. Definitely the national certain championships are. So runners actually have had to become their own storytellers on their own platforms to gain more notoriety. And I've definitely seen last year through the Olympic cycle, the runners that we partnered with throughout the year became more adept storytellers and content creators, which was just fantastic to see through their eyes. Because that's what the consumer wants to see. The Olympic trials, making it to the Olympics. What's the Olympic Village look like? What is your hotel beforehand? So I'm really excited to upcoming both the 2026 Olympics in your hometown, and then 2028 Summer Games, just all the storytelling around all the athletes participating.
Yeah, and all the memes, right, around those moments, they became like global sensation, right? Because they were able to show you things that usually, again, if you're not really like an athlete, you don't see. I think that was fascinating, and also entertaining.
So entertaining. I think that's the part that's just especially fun to watch, to be in the industry, but then also to watch as a consumer, right? How these athletes have their own individual personalities and can be firecrackers and can really be expressive. So it's definitely a lot of fun.
And so to go back to what we are saying at the beginning, right? Activations. More and more brands, right, understood that, especially right if you're into sports, it's something that yeah you can see and watch certain things online, but as you said before, the connection with other people, finding friends through a common interest, right? Go running together, or sports, and everything, right? It's such an important thing. And so, can you tell me a bit more about, first of all, how do you come up with activations and anything that you've done in the past that worked well for you, and why do you think that was a success?
Yeah, so what we really have done since 2020 and stayed consistent to the model, we host a run day, a hike day, a mat-based studio workout, and then a partnership with a local studio. So those 4 classes each month. We have not failed. Even when there's been kind of snow in New York, we hold a winter run club. So I would say consistency with programming. Now, those aren't necessarily special events. Those have become our just consistent programming. And that's worked really well for us, just being consistent with that. So people recognize the first Saturday of each month, I'm going to go here. And if I'm traveling to Miami, let's say, I can join that run club there. So that programming has really worked for us in terms of special events. You're right. So many brands are doing them right now. The production quality has to be really top tier because you're seeing the content on social and kind of everyone's outdoing themselves. So we've actually had to scale back a little bit and been more intentional to put more money into those few activations. So, for example, we had a ski activation this past year in Whistler in Canada. And Canada is a growing market for us and it is increasingly of interest, especially in Vancouver, where there's a big hike and ski community. So we held a ski trip with 4 or 5 skiers, a lot that were friends already from Vancouver, and then they go up Whistler. It was about an hour and a half and ski there. And we had a fantastic photo shoot with them, content creation making. But then we also held a gifting suite and we invited about 40 to 50 creators up from Vancouver for the day. So typically on a trip, we call them escapes. And we have a partnership with National Park Foundation, which is also really unique to us. We take a group of women typically into a national park for a hike escape or a ski escape and kind of adventure focused. But then you're only really interacting with about 5 or 6 individuals. So with this gifting suite of the add-on model, we were really able to meet, and that was our intention, to meet as many creators as we could and athletes in the Vancouver market. And that really allowed us to do so. So although we couldn't bring everyone skiing or maybe to a kind of dining experience, we were able to really have this gifting moment with them and able to interact with them. So I'd like to replicate that model again, but it's quite tricky to find
Mm.
a mountain where there's a singing close adjacency. Park City is another good idea there. So we'll probably do that. Ski in Park City and invite. We have a lot of creators that live in Salt Lake City. So replicate that model again.
Amazing. Yeah, but I mean, I know I also sometimes, I have to organize events, and I know that it's a lot of moving pieces, right? When you have like people like in physical, spaces and everything, it's a lot of coordination between the parties and everything. So, you start with a nice idea, and then all the execution, it takes time, efforts, right? Yeah, it's a lot of effort. So, kudos to you for organizing something like that, because I know this is not easy.
Well, we have a big team now, so I've really made that a point of focus over the years to hire a dedicated experiential marketing team and then support under them, coordinator level. So it wouldn't be possible without a dedicated team because, to your point, there's a lot of coordination and then also a lot of branded elements because there's no point in doing an event unless your brand is going to show up anywhere, but also in a way that doesn't feel too in your face or kind of tacky, if you will. Someone that feels like it's still your branding's there and it's not overstated, but it's not understated. So definitely requires a certain expertise, a little bit different than the influencer marketing team.
Absolutely. Is there anything else, Courtney, that we didn't discuss today? Something that you are either excited about the market, the industry, something that you're like closely following these days, or maybe something you're working on and that you can't wait just to to ship out there.
Yeah, so we just did launch our Stand Out Never Still campaign, which was a refresh take of last year. So that's in market right now. We spotlighted 5 athletes, different types of athletes, a boxer, dancer, tennis, a runner, and a soccer player. So that really was new for us to show so many different sports in one campaign. So that's freshly flighted campaign upcoming. I'm really looking forward to tennis season. So we're working with Sloane Stevens, our longtime ambassador, Danielle Collins, and we're also dressing Sophia Kennan. We worked with her in the past and now working with her in official capacity again this year. So 3 different tennis players, and they have just kicked off their season at the Australia Open and now I'm actually going to see them in person in just about 2 weeks at the Indian Wells tennis tournament. So that is just a fun time to watch that, and then we'll have on the ground presence at the French Open for the first time in Paris, and as well as at Wimbledon. And then something else I want to note with your now hometown in New York City, we are opening an 8-week pop-up with Nordstrom starting March 6th to April 27th on 57th and Broadway. So we have a whole dedicated, I think Skims iconically initially launched this pop-up space a few years ago on 57th and Broadway. So we will be there, FP Movement dedicated. It's a very large space, and we actually have a studio upstairs. So we'll be hosting classes 3 days a week, a speaker series every Thursday. Well, you'll see some of our ambassadors, some of our athletes in a panel series on Thursday evenings at 6 p.m. for all of March and April. So that's another great place for creators to come in to meet brand representatives and hear a little bit more about what we have going on.
Amazing. Love to hear that. And, best of luck with all the activations, especially, again, I can see that people want to see other people. They want to do things together, they want to go from, offline, from online to offline, and then using all the content of the offline, to go back to online. So thank you so much for, again, sharing that with us today. Again, congratulations on everything that you built together with your team. And that is, again, just
Yeah.
all that coming to life.
Thank you so much for having us. It was really special to be on and talk a little bit more about our journey.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Courtney. This was the Influence Factor by the Influencer Marketing Factory, and I'll see you in the next episode.